The first topic we had today, we wanted to look at the breaking news from yesterday, I believe, or maybe 2 days ago, a Leagues Cup format change. So, just the TLDR for many of you out there, including myself, 18 MLS teams will participate in Leagues Cup. They will be the 18 playoff teams. The non playoff teams do not qualify for the Leagues Cup. They will play in the Open Cup instead. The Leagues Cup also will not stop mid season. So it will be a midweek tournament now, similar to how Open Cup was and is still. And I think those are the major updates. Same with Liga MX. They are also cutting down on the amount of teams. They're going to have 18 teams from their side as well. So the dates are still a month long, late July to late August, which is similar to what it is today. So, Bryce, would love to hear your thoughts on the new format. Do you love it? Do you hate it? What are your thoughts?
I feel like there's a mixed bag here of love and hate. Like the love part, I really am excited about the potential of more um, cross leagues play. The groups when there was like a 2-to-1 ratio of every MLS. I think there's 18 Liga MX teams, and now there's going to be 30 MLS teams. So in that you have 48 teams. You would have 16 groups of three. Um, and like that you're playing an MLS team and most likely a team already in your conference in the old format. And like Atlanta last year, they played DC United. It's like we played them twice a year already. Like Atlanta fans don't care about watching that matchup, especially when it doesn't affect the regular season schedule at that point, and the standings and the Supporter Shield race and all of that. And the numbers just weren't there, especially in year two of this tournament. And when there's so many shutdowns for the MLS throughout the year, another thing that I like is there's no shutdown because there's always shutdowns in the playoffs during international breaks and just like the current window of schedule that the MLS plays is starting in late February and running till early December. Just seems like they're getting hit with a lot of breaks, and it sounds like they're going to take a mini. They haven't said it's going to be a league wide break for the Club World Cup when it's in the U.S. this year, but it sounds like there might be a little halt in that. There's going to be in 2026, the World Cup, the league's going to shut down. So I'm all for, especially in the middle of the year, of not shutting down because then it just feels like a whole second off season within itself. Because you have plenty of international windows where sometimes you play through, sometimes you don't. So I'm perfectly happy to play through it, and I do think the midweek matches adds a new element to it, similar to Concacaf, because earlier in the year when some of those teams are in Concacaf, they have to really be strategic with their game day rosters. Sometimes they have to rotate, play like 5 or 6 guys off the bench in each game, so that adds a new element into it as well. Um, I think the one thing I don't like is I don't like where the tournament's trending in terms of its relevancy. I think the first year it took off. Like best thing could have happened. Messi came in, scored immediately in the first game of the tournament. It took off. They won the whole thing, and everyone was tuned in. But last year, it just didn't have as much flavor to it. And I'm nervous that they're changing the format after 2 seasons. That means both leagues know it's not doing well, so they're trying to see if this clicks. But if this doesn't click, then it might just be another one of those tournaments that just goes under the water immediately again. So that's the one thing I'm a little nervous about. I think this format could be a good thing, but if it doesn't work, if the attendance numbers aren't there, if the people aren't watching on their TVs and through season pass, I don't know if it's going to last past 2025.
Yeah, my worry is that, and my thoughts are that this was planned all along. So they wanted to roll it out and have all the teams involved. And part of their rollout plan of this new tournament was okay, after a couple years, we don't know the exact dates, but after a couple years, we're going to scale it back. And we only want it to be a set group of teams. We don't want it to be all the teams. And I think that the people who were putting this tournament together were probably, maybe they were worried about buy-in from everybody, from the fans, from I don't know, their stakeholder groups who pay and invest, right? From, and then also from all the teams as well, buy-in from all the teams. That if you only gave it to the playoff teams per se, then maybe there would be teams who don't like that, who want to participate in another international tournament. um, and so it feels, it happens so quickly 2 years in, that it feels like it's a part of the plan. And then in alignment with what's happening with the Open Cup, it feels like it's part of that plan as well, to just totally reshape how these secondary, if you will, competition, the cup competitions are structured. It just all feels very planned, and uh, everything seems to be going to as part of the script. I'm not sure I like it per se. I mean, I like this in a bubble. I like the new format. I like that it's just the competitive teams per se. I like that it's not shutting down mid-season. All the things you kind of went over. I like the midweek nature of it. I like teams going to Mexico. I don't remember if I said that. Maybe you said it. But teams going and playing in Mexico, that was a big thing that people didn't like. But I'm not outside of the bubble. It just feels very planned and meticulous, and it just makes me feel like what's coming next, because MLS seems to always be chopping and changing things up.
Yeah, like it's the playoff format feels like it like changes every 2 to 3 to 4 years, and this has shifted. And like on the surface level, I think this is great because like it keeps all MLS teams in, I guess, like there's like 3 stages of them being able, and the Canadian team's 4 stages to earn a bid to the big continental tournament, which is the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Like 3 teams earn it still from the Leagues Cup. That'll remain the same. They'll have the champion, the runner up, and a third place game. And then those that don't make it, they will be playing in the U.S. Open, and that still gives them like a secondary competition outside of the MLS play, which is great because I know as an Atlanta fan, we started out rough this year, and even though we made the playoffs, like we were still in the U.S. Open, like through the quarterfinals. So like at least you have a secondary competition to play for, and I think giving all 30 MLS teams that, and each individual club can choose like how they want to like allocate their roster and like their rest to certain competitions. And I think another thing that's great is those teams that don't make the knockout stage in Leagues Cup when everything was shut down, they had like a month and a half off. Like some teams had like over 30 days off. And when teams want to be playing, especially middle of the season, like you kind of use like those first 2 months to really ramp yourself up. But then when you ramp yourself up just for a halt like that, I don't think that's good for the players and momentum. And um, so I think this could help with that. I am really curious to see the format of this because it's still, they said they're going to have them midweek and there's no shutdown. So the dates for it, they said, are July 29th to August 31st, which is that 29th is on a Tuesday, 31st on a Sunday. So basically, they have like 5 midweek opportunities, and then the championship, third place, like on that weekend is my guess. That 31st on that Sunday. Um, so basically, have like 6 windows for match days and 36 clubs. I don't know because they said another format changing this is making sure that MLS teams aren't playing MLS teams at least early, and same with Liga MX teams. So I don't know if they're just going to have it straight up. I feel like the only logical one is just have straight up single elimination opportunity, and then like starting it just MLS versus Liga MX to start. Like you could have the lower teams in the standings. Like I guess it would be, you would have like the top 28 teams, top 14 in each have a bye. And I was kind of drawing it up like the 15th team in Liga MX plays like the 18th team in MLS, and like you just like kind of pepper them through there, and then they play into the round of 32, and then you just play on through that in a single elimination. I think that's what it's going to be, and then they just have the higher. I don't know who they would choose to have the home field advantage, but I feel like it's probably going to be single elimination, no more group setting as well, because there just isn't enough time for it with that window and not taking off at this point.
Yeah, and two things on that. Firstly, oh, I totally forgot what my my first thing was. Um, what was my thing? Now I can't even think of my second thing. I'm losing my mind over here.
It's okay.
Okay, but with Leagues Cup, with the matches being midweek and being in July to August, one of the two things I was going to say is I'm looking at Seattle and Miami specifically because they are now in CONCACAF Champions Cup. They are now in Club World Cup. And then they will have this Leagues Cup as well because they qualify since they made the playoffs. And so I think for them specifically, their season looks insane. Their season just looks absolutely insane, and I don't know how they're going to manage it. Like I don't think I don't think their MLS season is going to be great this upcoming year. Um, they're going to really need to stack up the talent and just the bodies in the off season to make sure that they have a full roster raring to go for this long haul of the season. So that's my first point. And actually, I do remember my second point, which is I wonder if having Leagues Cup um, as like a if you make the playoffs, then you make Leagues Cup. I wonder if that will almost help be another incentive to make the playoffs. Like obviously every team is shooting for the playoffs, but like sometimes throughout an MLS season, things get a little dull. Things get a little like, oh, a team can lose 3 games and it's not a big deal. And that's one thing that MLS struggles with is making sure that every single game feels important. Because right now that's not the case. You can finish what seventh, sixth or seventh, what the Red Bulls finish and make it MLS Cup final as long as you're doing good by the end of the season, which is the fun in it. But also you want to be able to have games that feel important. Is Leagues Cup another reason that games in MLS regular season feel important? Took me a long way to get there, but I got there
Yeah,
in the end.
no, you did. You got there, and that's a good point because I don't think as a 9 seed you're going to go in like Atlanta did last year and say, "Hey, we actually have a realistic shot to go on a run." At least you kind of get that check mark, being like, "Okay, we didn't have the best year, but now we earned ourselves in Leagues Cup. Like now we can maybe be to just get our resources ready and win against Liga MX because all MLS clubs want to do that, and that's going to be in the early part of their season when Apertura is like really starting to kick off. So they're going to be a little cold, and no, yeah, I think that's a good point. But yeah, like looking at I don't know with the new manager in Miami and all these competitions, they're going to be playing in the Club World Cup in June, and MLS is going to have plenty of midweek matches because they have to get 34 games in a span as well, which the Leagues Cup isn't schedule is going to come out for a bit, but the MLS schedule comes out on Thursday. So we're going to be able to kind of see the placeholders, and Seattle and Miami might hit like the 50 game mark as a club this year, which like you never really see. So yeah, especially Seattle, but both are going to struggle next year. So I agree with you on both
Yeah,
points.